I'm Curtis Smith, and I'm the chairman of the Spartanburg County Republican Party. And I have the honor tonight to introduce Drew McKissick. Drew has been active in conservative politics for over 30 years. He's been the chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party for 5 years. He's also an author, many books on politics, grassroots organizations, and he currently has a new one out, the Grassroots 101 Training Series. Drew is an avid Elvis fan, and he loves to beat Democrats. Well,
good evening, fellow Republicans. How are y'all? Are y'all excited to be Republicans this evening? Let me hear it. Are y'all ready for November? Let me hear that. I think we're all ready to see Nancy Pelosi go off to that retirement home in the sky, right? The last I heard, I think they were holding out the ambassadorship to Italy. They were keeping that open for her. That's what she wants in her retirement, is to go to Rome and spend some time with her husband who's not supposed to be driving cars anymore or whatever. You know, we got a lot to look forward to this November. Absolutely. And we have here in South Carolina, I think, a lot to look forward to here in the state party in South Carolina. Many of you in this room have helped make that possible. You know, nationally speaking, it's an outrage of the day, it seems like. More and more stuff comes out every day that just drives more and more voters further and farther away from the Democrat Party. And that's half the job. They do half of our communications job for us, but then we have to do the other half. We have to communicate our message, our conservative message, and what we're all about, because it's up to us to demonstrate to people how our principles are relevant to their daily lives. And we do that. They vote for our candidates. They support our party. They become part of what we're doing. Our movement gets bigger, and we win more campaigns. It's simple. There's, as I've said so many times before, and I know a lot of you have heard me say this, and I'll only keep saying it as long as it's true, there are only three things that we need to be focusing on as a party and as campaigns, whether we're running for school board all the way to the President of the United States. And number one is getting our message out. It's our principles, our conservative principles that we have as a party that have built this majority that we have here in South Carolina today, because people have rallied around those principles. You can almost look at a graph over the years as our platform has become more and more conservative, more and more elections you've seen us win in South Carolina over the last 30 years. State level, national level, local level, all because of those principles. But in addition to that, we've got the other thing we need to do. Number two, that's organization. Doing what we need to do to identify people who think like we do, who may be sitting next to us at church, who may be standing next to us at work. We can't have them sitting on the sidelines. You know, there's an old saying that, you know, you can't beat somebody with nobody. You have to have candidates. And we got a lot of great candidates. By the way, y'all give our candidates a round of applause who are in here this evening. You know, I thank God every day for people who are willing to step up and run for office. And I try to thank God twice a day for the good ones who do a good job at it. But you know, the fact is, it's a sacrifice for people to get out there and run for office, put their name on the ballot, pay a filing fee, go out, try to organize, raise money, do the things that they need to do in order to win. You know, they don't just run anymore. Their whole families run. You know, they get involved in it sometimes whether they want to or not. They've got this great thing called social media now where people will say all kind of stuff about you. You know, and you go to church and people will be saying, is that true what they said about you? And you're like, well, no, not really. And you know, when they walk away, they're probably still believing it's true. You know, and they go through a lot. So next time you see them, thank them for being willing to run, because again, we as a party can't win without candidates. But then that brings us back to the thing that we need to do, and that is to help those candidates. And there's a lot of ways we do that. And one of the big ways is the third thing, and that's raising the money to make getting out the message and organizing possible. Those three things, getting out our message, organizing, and raising the money to make those things possible. That's what we need to focus on as a party. That's what we need to focus on as candidates. But it's the organization aspect I want to key in on right now tonight, because we've got, 45 days until Election Day now, 44 or whatever it may be. You know, can't get here quick enough. My pocket keeps vibrating. My wife's trying to call me. I'll call her back in a minute. We're having the house painted this week. It might have something to do with that. I don't know. But the point is, unless we actually do the work and help these candidates, then in many cases it's all for naught. You know, we have come a long way here in South Carolina, as I pointed out. 55 years ago, we did not have a state house seat or a state senate seat with a Republican next to his name here in South Carolina. Zero. And here now we've got a supermajority in the state senate. We're on our way, by the way, to winning a supermajority in the state House of Representatives this year. We're going to make that happen. We're winning at the local level all across the state. We just won the first Republican victory in Dillon County since Sherman pulled the troops out 140 some odd years ago. Dillon County, South Carolina, has a Republican county councilman now. So our message is working, but then we're doing the job to actually organize and turn out the votes. And those folks in Dillon County, I tell you, and we got Vert Odom is from Marlboro County, neighbor in Marlboro County to Dillon right now. He can tell you how hard those folks in Dillon worked to get out the vote the other week. They did a fantastic job. That's what we got to do, though, for our candidates. They're relying on us. You know, that great streak, all those victories that we've seen, that only happens when we do the work. It doesn't happen just because we wake up in the morning and we think, we got a good party, we got great ideas, people are going to vote for us. Well, maybe if we actually get out and we do the work. We got to make the phone calls, we got to knock the doors, we got to help the candidates, we got to do the poll watching. There's a whole menu of stuff that you can do. And our victory operation here in South Carolina is the way that you can do it. Working through, obviously, here in the 4th District Republican Club and what they've got going on, but also our victory office up here. And I'm going to introduce, this is Tabitha Bone. She is our victory director for here for the upstate. And she's doing a fantastic job. And I'm going to let her talk to you just a little bit about how you can get plugged in and help make sure our candidates win this November. Thank you.
How are y'all? If you are excited about getting Republicans elected in November, then I want you to join my team. I'm excited. I have a young group of Republicans back there. There's a lot of Clemson students, a lot of Anderson students, and I'm excited. I'm passionate about the upstate. I'm excited about your probate judge. I'm excited about your state house races, and I'm also excited about your school board district. I'm very excited about getting you plugged in. If you want to make history with me in the last 45 days, come join my team. Come talk to me. I will be here until late tonight. And so if you are deciding that you want to come help out, we can do phone calls, we do door knocking, we do signs. We can do anything that you are interested in doing. I have a young, great group that is walking around with clipboards. So if you would like to help out, join in, jump in, I would love it. So thank you guys so much. My name is Tabitha Bone, and I look forward to speaking with each and every one of you tonight.
Thank you, Tabitha. My name is Nate. I am the chairman of the 4th Congressional District and also the president of the 4th District Republican Club, often confused by even me. I have a little bit of housekeeping. Let's start right off. I saw someone walk in who we need to recognize and thank. The person stuck with President Trump through his entire administration, through the last day, finishing off as the Undersecretary of Commerce for the United States of America. Joe Semsar, step forward and give us a wave. Of course, we want to thank the Greer Depot and their team. Thank you very much. I think the last time that we were here, there was a race going on, and that has been finished. So I do want to say, before it was candidate Alan Morgan, we are now in his district as Representative Alan Morgan. Of course, those of you that came early partook of some great food. That was not a caterer that we had to hire. That was our ladies. So ladies, if you are involved in the preparation for the reception, please stand. Let's give them a round of applause. Almost done with some housekeeping, and I'm trying to not to get these out of order. There are 2 new groups that have been started in the upstate. One is the Spartanburg Young Republicans. Where is Tyler? If you are young enough to be a young Republican, or you have a child or grandchild, have them see Tyler. We also have started a 4th District Teenage Republican Club. Parker, where's Parker? If you are a candidate, Drew, our state chairman, mentioned, but if you are a candidate for office whose name will be on the ballot this November, partisan, please stand. These are the people that we need to support the next few days. We have some nonpartisan races that are also important. If you are running for a nonpartisan or school board race, will you please stand? Thank you very much. Our friend Laura Godfrey, her father did some printing for us for the Republican Party. He's a printer down in West Columbia. If you remember, Bobby Cox gave us a free SIG to raffle off, and Laura Godfrey's father-in-law did the printing, so thank you, and we enjoy your father-in-law, and when he takes me to Clemson games, so just a shout out for that. My real job for coming up here is, Chad, I haven't called you yet, please sit down. I've been asked to introduce Chad Groover. There is so much that I can tell you about Chad Groover. Chad's getting a little nervous right now, but I'll let you off the hook on this one. Okay, Chad, now you can start making your way up here, Mr. Chairman. Chad's been a good friend for a number of years and also a mentor. Many of you probably don't know or remember that when Chad became chairman of our party, we were in the red by thousands of dollars. And Chad quickly turned that around, and we worked hard on that. I'll ask Chad to tell you more about himself, but I'm going to take a little point of personal privilege on this one. Some people are saying that the probate judge isn't a political position. Shame on you. Democrat Deb is what we should be referring to her as she's campaigning the next few months. She has done a fair job as our judge, but she's running under the banner of a party who is the antithesis for most every Republican voter in the upstate. She may be your friend. I understand she's a very lovely person. That doesn't mean that Republicans should cast a vote for someone who runs under the banner of a party that really goes against so much, not only of Republican values, but also of American values. So the next few months, I don't know if I get $5 every time I say this, but for the next few months, we need to be referring to her not as Judge Faulkner, but as candidate Democrat Deb. So tell your friends and neighbors how important it is. If we win this last Democrat-held seat in Greenville County, the Republican Party will have every county-wide seat in Greenville. And it's been far too long. It has been far too long that we have let them hold and cling on to that last seat. And Chad, with your help, is the person that is going to help us sweep Greenville County. So, Chairman, good friend Chad Groover, please tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Nate. Come on. Well, thank you very much. When I was chairman of the party, Nate was my first vice chair. He did so much of the hard work and the heavy lifting of that party in those days, and I couldn't control anything he said back then either. Pastor, good to see you. Thanks for crossing the border into Greenville. Well, I'm Chad Groover. I know so many of you in this crowd already after many years as chairman of the party. I was even parliamentarian of the party before that, and working alongside many of you throughout the years. So the question I get asked most often is, why probate court? There's a lot of offices. In fact, some Democrats are saying, oh, he's just looking for an easy post to get. Well, it might be news to some folks, but I've spent 12 years as a probate lawyer. So I might know just a little bit about probate law. In fact, I came here straight from the probate court where I was a litigator winning a successful case for my client. But really, it's a good question. Why probate court? And it's not a political question. For me, it's an office that it gets elected politically. There's no doubt about that. I didn't write the rules. It says you run as a Republican, you run as a Democrat. That's the way it is. But I am proudly running as a Republican. The Republican Party is the party that supports the values that I support. Now, again, back to the probate court. What does that have to do with anything? They don't legislate. They're not fighting the battle down in Colombia. It's because that's the court that's the people's court. It's the court that every one of you has had some tangential relationship with or some really terrible long-term relationship with. How many of you are married? How many of you got married in Greenville County? Well, you had to buy a license at the probate court. So, marriage. How many of you have a loved one that died in Greenville County? Okay. Now, death. The probate court affects everything from marriage to death. How many of you have a relative that, well, may not be all there? I don't mean your crazy cousin Henry. What I mean is, I've seen so many circumstances where a loved one doesn't have a power of attorney, doesn't have a health care power of attorney, and they're no longer competent to take care of themselves. They need a guardian and a conservator. That process requires the stripping of their constitutionally protected rights and giving those rights to another person. So what judicial philosophy would we want our probate judge to have? A conservative philosophy that respects individual liberties. We want a judge who's going to respect individual liberties and parental rights. I can't tell you how many clients I've had to take to the probate court because they had a minor child that was going to inherit money and somebody had to monitor that money. They needed a minor conservator. I can't tell you how many families that have come to me that had an 18-year-old turning 19 that needed a guardian and a conservator because parents, when your child turns 18, you don't have control over them anymore. My 8-year-old's probably kind of happy to hear that. But if you don't control your children anymore when they turn 19 or turn 18, well, what do we do if they can't handle themselves? Well, the parents have to step in and become have to become a guardian and a conservator. That also means taking away rights, bestowing them on the parents, and then the court supervising the parents. Does that sound like it's something that we should be concerned about? Does judicial philosophy or approach to government sound like it has anything to do with that? Oh, I think so. So we need a probate judge leading that office that's respectful of parental rights, respectful of individual liberties, and that runs a good court, right? It's partly administrative, partly judicial. I was told keep this political and don't talk about boring stuff. So don't go to sleep. It's not that boring. We want good government, right? I spent 5 years as Chuck Grassley. Does anybody know Senator Chuck Grassley? I was Mr. Grassley's crime counsel for 5 years in Washington, D.C. on the Judiciary Committee. I've spent more time with Chuck Grassley, and unfortunately more time with Joe Biden than I care to admit. They were co-chairs of the subcommittee I was on. But if I learned anything from Chuck Grassley, it was good government matters. Party labels don't matter. Government matters. In that, he was as hard on Republicans as he was on Democrats because the people control the government. The government doesn't control the people. Right? So we want a well-run, efficient probate court one that doesn't get mired in the details, one that doesn't throw up roadblocks to getting probate. Anybody had a probate case like drag on and on and on? Anybody? Oh yeah, I see some hands. Because we've all had that experience. We need to make the court more efficient. We need electronic filing. Circuit Court, General Sessions, Common Pleas, Court of Appeals, Supreme Court, Family Court. Every other court's got electronic filing. We were promised electronic filing years ago. We still don't have it. So that's an issue, county council members that are here, I'm going to be taking up with you if I get elected. So, who we have as our probate judge makes a world of difference, because this is the court that affects the most number of Granvillians. So if you will, get energized and excited, go see Tabitha, because I can tell you, did you hear how fast she was speaking up here? That wasn't nerves, that's her energy. That girl is go, 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 go. She used my office on Saturday as the kind of the rallying point for all the efforts that she had going on Saturday. And I can tell you, those kids work hard, and they work with energy and enthusiasm. Go and support these guys, these interns that have come out from colleges all over the state who want to make a difference. Give them help in making a difference for our county. Vote Chad Groover for probate judge. Thank you.
All right, hey everybody, my name is Alan Morgan, and welcome to my district. Love to have you here in Greer. Is Sharon West here? Is Sharon West here? Okay, all right, just had to check on that. All right, well, our next speaker needs no introduction. He has been our Secretary of State for nearly 20 years, from right here in the 4th District in Spartanburg. And interestingly enough, my mom is a Hammond, and Secretary of State Mark Hammond, we're not 100% sure if we're related, but we think we might be, so from up there in Lancaster County. So Secretary of State Mark Hammond, why don't you come on up, and everybody welcome him.
Thank you. I knew he was special the moment I laid eyes on him. Thank you for letting me be your Secretary of State. Thank you for letting me be your nominee again. I am just so proud to represent this party, and I know we're all going to be excited about the November election, and I'm just so honored to be part of this team. And you know why this is going to be such a great team? Because it's going to be a winning team. Isn't that right? And we're going to send a message. I think we got, 44 days to go. I have enjoyed going around the state and traveling. I've been traveling with our governor, with our Chairman Drew McKissick. We were in Spartanburg last Monday, as a matter of fact, and I just love meeting people. I bumped into someone, and they said, "Well, Mr. Hammond, tell me a little bit about yourself." And I said, "Well, I'm from Spartanburg, and I was a probation officer when I left Clemson. I was a criminal investigator in the 7th Circuit Solicitor's Office. I ran for Clerk of Court of Spartanburg. I'm the first Republican Clerk of Court elected in Spartanburg. And I'm Secretary of State." And he says, "Well, that sounds good. You have a problem keeping a job?" So you just never know, do you? Well, I love being your Secretary of State. I'd like to continue to be your Secretary of State, and we have worked hard in the Secretary of State's office. I told you if you would elect me to be your Secretary of State, you would have an office that never closes. And if you want to incorporate, if you want to form a nonprofit, if you want to do a search, file a UCC, you can do that after this meeting tonight. Technically, again, the office has never closed. We, after the 100-year flood, we said we have to create a disaster recovery program. We cannot close the office again. Business doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. Business is continuous, and we have to be able to serve our customers. So when COVID hit, we were able to open up remote locations, and during COVID, we filed more corporate filings during COVID than we did the year before, and we were closed half that time, and we're very proud of that. A lot of businesses, I don't know if people have formed LLCs or incorporated, but folks needed their PPP loans. And if we hadn't have created that system, folks would not have been able to get their certified copies of their documents to take to their bankers and get those loans. And I think we were able to get those out. We must have done 5,000 of them in just a few weeks to get those to people in South Carolina. And we were glad to be able to do that. Also, I just love working with a governor and being part of this wonderful team. I also thank you for all these wonderful legislators that you have sent to Columbia. I'm just like you. I can't introduce a bill. I don't vote on a bill. So I need these good folks to help me. And I appreciate them passing electronic notarization here in the state of South Carolina. And that's going to be wonderful. So if you're in the banking business or real estate business, everything's going to be on a computer. You can be an electronic notary. You can witness the electronic signature, have a third party certify that, and send it straight to the Register of Deeds office. 23 Register of Deeds now currently accept electronic filings. We're very excited about that. And we revised our notary statute years ago. I felt like there needed to be more qualifications. So because of our legislation, because of our legislators, now if you want to be a notary in South Carolina, you must speak and understand the English language. That's a pretty good thing, isn't it? And if you advertise in a foreign language, you must advertise in English also. So we're very proud and glad that we have those new qualifications. South Carolina is the most generous state in the nation. Sometimes we rank in the top 10 when it comes to charitable giving. We have 16,000 charities registered here in the state of South Carolina. That's a record. And they come to South Carolina, they solicit to South Carolina because they know we are such good people and we want to help others. But I told you years ago that I will not let anyone take advantage of our generosity here in South Carolina. And last year we broke another record. We collected $450,000 in fines from nonprofit organizations. So we're doing our best to hold them accountable. We closed down the Cancer Fund of America. We got $30,000 in the settlement and sent that to MUSC in Charleston so it actually could help cancer patients. And one other thing I'm proud of, everyone remembers the truckers? Well, I saw on Fox News that GoFundMe wasn't going to give that money to the truckers, and they were going to donate it maybe to a nonprofit of their choice. I said, no, that's not right. So we called nonprofit. We told them that if we needed to, we would subpoena them, but we wanted the name of everyone in South Carolina that donated to the truckers. It was close to 100 people, and everyone got their money back. One other thing we're very excited about, if you'll send me back to Columbia, we are going to create an app that you can download on your telephone. So when you get a call, when you get a solicitation, you can always go to our website and look it up, but we're going to have an app, and you can go directly into that app, and it's going to give you the information also on these organizations. So thank you again for having me. Thank you for letting me be your Secretary of State. Vote for Mark Hammond, Secretary of State.
Good evening, fellow Republicans. My name is Parker Malfris, and I'm the chairman of the newly formed 4th District Teenage Republicans. It is my privilege to introduce our 4th District Congressman, Representative William Timmons. He is finishing his second term, and we are confident that he will be reelected, and he can tell you exactly why that is. Representative Timmons?
Well, good evening. The reason that I'm likely to get reelected is because I'm unopposed. That ain't bad. If that's not enough, I would say that what this president and the Speaker of the House have done to this country in just 2 years would be plenty enough against any opposition. I have been in Congress for almost 4 years now, and it has been rough with Pelosi as the Speaker. I'm going to give you all a couple, just little stories. So number one, y'all know about the metal detectors, the magnetometers. We have to literally walk through metal detectors, go to the House floor, and they don't enforce it equally. If you're a Democrat, you can have a big bag. They don't look in it. You walk through it, goes off. That's fine, whatever. If you're a Republican, you can have literally a phone in your hand, put it around, and they wand you to death. And it is ridiculous. I have not gotten in trouble because I only carry a cell phone, and I'm good at it. But we've had a bunch of fines levied against Republican members. Literally, people have missed votes, and this is the kind of House the Speaker runs. If that's not enough, mask mandates. So in order to go on the floor of the House, up until like over a year ago, when masks were gone from everywhere, in the Senate, no problem. Masks are optional. Keep in mind they're all 80 plus years old over there, and they have to take a nap time every day to get by. But seriously, the House, if you go on the floor of the House, which by the way, like you didn't wear a mask anywhere, but you walk on the floor of the House, you take the mask out, you put it on, and if you don't, you get fined. We had members that were fined literally tens of thousands of dollars because they refused to wear a mask on the floor when they didn't have to wear a mask anywhere else. And then, by the way, the president has a State of the Union, cancels everything. No more social distancing, no more mask mandates. The politicization of COVID was absolutely insane. I'll give you one last thing. So y'all know about proxy voting? So proxy voting, the speaker has a very slim majority, and she can't get her people there. They don't want to come. And so literally up until, I think it was September of this year, there were a half dozen Democrat members that never came to Washington. They just mailed it in. One guy had a full-time job as a pilot in Hawaii. He got in trouble because that's ridiculous, but he literally was just voting proxy, never showing up for work. So that's the Washington that Pelosi has run, and it has been terrible to be serving in Congress under her reign. But guess what? We got 42 days until the election. 42 days. All right? And not only do the American people see what this speaker and this president have done to this country. Inflation through the roof, gas prices doubled since he took office, millions of people crossing. More people will cross the southern border illegally in the first 2 years of Biden's administration than in 8 years under Obama. I mean, and it's only going to get worse. So while the Democrats are going to try to distract this country from the fact that they're driving into the ditch, the Republicans over the last 2 years have worked hard to create a plan. We're not just the party of no. We have a plan. Commitment to America. It was rolled out last Friday by Leader McCarthy and a couple dozen members in, this is the best part, in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. And do you know why we chose that? We chose Pittsburgh because it's a steel mill. It is American, the economy, it's jobs, it's what people want. We want to reinvest in our energy independence. We want to reinvest in our ability to produce. And the Democrats at every turn impede that. So again, over the last really 18 months, the entire Republican conference was divided into task forces, and we created a plan. And that plan was unveiled. It was pretty cool. Newt Gingrich came, Kellyanne Conway came, and we had this big conference meeting, and we went over every point, and none of it was new. We all knew it was coming because we'd been working on it for 2 years. And I'm going to give you the highlights, and I had to write it down because it literally came out Friday, and I got to get the words right. So an economy that is strong. That's pretty straightforward. Every American wants that. We got to stop spending money we don't have. We spent trillions of dollars, and that's created the inflation. So that's an easy one. We have to invest in our energy independence. We were a net exporter of energy under Trump, and Biden, day one, destroyed that. We have to undo that. We have to make sure the American people understand that's why their gas has doubled in price, and we're going to change that through oversight, and we're going to take back the White House eventually, and we're going to really change it. But we're going to start with the House. Regulation's another one. We've got to deregulate. We've got to be smart about how we allow our businesses to compete in the global economy, because when we tie one arm behind their back, they can't compete and they lose. And we can't have that if we want to grow the economy. And that's the most important thing right now, because how many people in this room think it's okay that we have $31 trillion in debt? Nobody. The only way we can fix our debt is by growing the economy. And the only way we can grow the economy is if we're competitive in the global economy. And right now, this administration is not allowing that. I'm running out of time. All right, a nation that is safe. We have to secure the border. Straightforward. That's very easy, very easy. And we're setting up for a fight over government funding next year, and we will shut the government down if we do not secure the border. I'll tell you that right now. I promise you that right now. Where's our sheriff? There's our sheriff. You're such a great sheriff. We've got to fund our law enforcement. We've got to fund our law enforcement. This is not complicated. We've got to fund our military. We've got to fund our law enforcement. We've got to regain our position in the global community as a leader. We have to be the military we once were. All right, I got to hurry up. I'm almost done. This election is important, and while many of the people on the ballot are unopposed, we've got a couple that aren't. And we've got a superintendent education that have Democrats going all over the place trying to make sure that you don't have a say in what your kids learn in school. That's not right. We don't want that. We have a probate judge. Chad's running for probate judge. These are not gimme races, and if we stay home, if we do not turn out because a number of races are unopposed, it's going to be a bad day. And I always try to give Democrats credit where credit's due. Joe Cunningham has incredible hair. Like, he's got a great head of hair. But he would be a terrible governor. And we are going to make sure that he never becomes governor. And with that, thank y'all so much.
It's good to be American tonight. If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my God above to be living here today, 'cause that flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say
That I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget
very much. What an encouragement. Wow, what a way to keep this show going on and keep moving and loving our people and loving our land. And I have the pleasure to introduce to you a very good friend of mine who has been an amazing leader, a very courageous leader, our Lieutenant Governor, Pamella Evette. I've known Pamela before her name was ever on a ballot. And I want you to know she has stayed true to the things that she loves, her God, her family, and our country. Pamela, you want to come on up? And I want to remind you, of the first time we met. We had breakfast together, and we spent a lot of time talking about family and God and country, and we talked about the pro-life issue. That was very, very important. It still is very important to you, very important to me. And we spent a lot of time on that. And she said, but before we leave, I have a question for you. And I said, okay. And she said, what do you think about Henry McMaster? I don't know that it changed anything. I think you were all in, but I said, Henry always had my back as a pro-life leader. I will always have Henry's back. Ladies and gentlemen, our Lieutenant Governor, Pamella Evette.
Well, good evening, friends. Is everybody still awake? What a great group has been here tonight. I'm Pamella Evette. I'm your 93rd Lieutenant Governor of the great state of South Carolina and the first female Republican Lieutenant Governor ever elected in our state. David sends his greetings. He couldn't be here tonight. He has to work. He likes to poke at me and says one of us has to keep working so the other one can do what they love to do, and I think that's me, and I do love what I do. You know, who would have ever thought that in 2.5 years we could be where we are, or not even 2 years, we could be where we are today, right? With a federal government that's out of control. Thank you to Congressman Timmons for all you're doing to fight the good fight in D.C., and thank you to Drew for all he's doing to bring Republicans out. Getting them out. We had the most straight ticket, Republican straight ticket voting than we've ever had. And that's thanks to Drew and everything that they're doing at the state GOP. You know, COVID taught us a lot of things, right? But it really taught us how important our state and local leaders are. How many of you believe that state and local leadership is our last defense against an overreach from the federal government? How many of you believe that? You know, as the country was closing down here in South Carolina, we were the last state east of the Mississippi to tap on the brakes and the first state to open back up. Companies across South Carolina, they thank this administration for having record years in 2020. Not all states can say that. This governor fought hard, making sure that he used the Constitution as his guide and not his own personal beliefs or the whims of people around the country. Got a lot of pressure to try to close everything down, but he never did. And it worked out really well for the people of South Carolina. I don't know if you all were following the news last week. The governor once again stood up for our children. Made sure when they were trying to mask our children, the governor came out and said, nope, parents, you have the right. You have the right to decide about your children. And last week, the governor made me and the rest of you all proud, I'm sure, when he wrote a letter to the school board in Charleston County telling them that we will not be teaching transgender issues in our classroom to our young. That's something that has to be said for their parents. Yes. Stand up and give our great governor a round of applause. That's a man I'm proud to run with. So you were right, Lena. He has everybody's back. You know, we got a lot of things done this year. Over these last 4 years, you know, my grandma used to say, as you get older, time goes by really fast. And it does, because I can't believe that it's already been 4 years, right? And we got so many great things done. First of all, we took care of our law enforcement. I agree with you. I think we got one of the best sheriffs in the state, Sheriff Hobart Lewis. We made sure we took care of our law enforcement, making sure we gave them all pay raises across the state. Because this will never be a state that talks about defunding their police. This is a state who embraces our law enforcement. Not only do we take care of our law enforcement, we took care of our veterans, because our veterans have always taken care of us here in the U.S. You know, South Carolina is a very proud military state. We have 8 military installations here in our state. Over 400,000 veterans call South Carolina home. Over 50,000 active servicemen and women right here in our state. And our governor has fought, ever since I've known him, to make sure that they had 0 state income tax on their veterans' pensions, and that got done this year. I'm not going to try calling out our state representatives' names. I always get in trouble because somebody sneaks in. But if you serve in the House or the Senate and you're here tonight, please raise your hand. They work with us. They work with this governor to make sure we get productive things done here in our state. Federal government's out of control, and they're taking your money. I never would have thought that we would have gas prices where they are. But what really hurts my heart is when you look in our grocery stores and you see that we don't have baby formula. Baby formula. We're begging countries like Switzerland to send us baby formula. That's what the Democrat administration has done on a federal level. They are spending money, they are printing it faster than we can all make it to send it to them. But here in South Carolina, we cut your taxes this year. You will all be getting a tax cut this year because we know you know how to spend your money way better than we can ever spend it for you. So we have an election coming up, and we have a challenger. And as Congressman Timmons says, he probably does have really good hair. And he's here in Greenville tonight, and he's working hard, crisscrossing the state. But we have a great message. We have a great resume, and we need to talk about it. We need to be unapologetic about what we believe in. We believe in God. We believe in the sanctity of life. We believe in family, and we believe in growing business. We believe in taking government out of your homes and out of your way. And that's what we have to talk about. I believe we're going to have a great red wave across our country, and it's all because of people like you. Proud Republicans that will not give up the fight, that will not be afraid to speak your mind, that will pick up a phone and call people and knock on doors and put out signs. You know, it's not easy what you do, and we couldn't do what we do without you. I think we have Charlie James and Tara Sudeikis in the room. If we do, hey Charlie, always great to see you. Tara, she's here somewhere. There you are. You know, the media would have you believe a lot of things. So thank God for conservative talk radio. Thank you both for what you do. You know, I like to think that media now has turned into our 4th branch of government. And I don't know what we would do if we didn't have people that were willing to get on the air, bring us on, and take our message directly to the people. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for all you do. It's my honor to be your lieutenant governor. I look forward to being your lieutenant governor for another 4 years so we continue to fight for you, your businesses, your family, and your children. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Y'all give her another round of applause. She's doing a fantastic job. And thank you, actually, for bringing up that straight ticket business, because I forgot to mention that earlier, as a matter of fact. Doing a poor job as chairman here, reminding y'all of what y'all got done in the last couple of cycles. 2016 was the first time in history that South Carolina Republicans beat Democrats on straight ticket voting. We beat them by 2.5 points. In 2018, when the governor was running for re-election, we beat them by 8 points. In 2020, we beat them by 17 points on straight ticket voting all across the state. And we got that done because of a lot of the work that y'all have done to help build this party. And I say that by way of reminding you, if you haven't thought about contacting Tabitha Bone right over here in the red dress, by the time you leave this evening, now she's running the victory operation up here, knocking doors, making phone calls. That's the way we get it done, turning out the votes. So be sure to plug up with her before you leave. She's got a good team here collecting names, I know, probably by the door. She'll stop you on the way out the door. So you can't get out of here without volunteering for something. Our next speaker I just want to introduce by way of my recent travel arrangements. So about 2 weeks ago, got a phone call that's from folks at the RNC said, President Trump wants you to come meet him in Bedminster with a couple other state party chairmen. Okay. So made travel arrangements and went up to Bedminster, up to the golf club, went into the green room at the golf club, and in there were 3 other state party chairmen, Ronna McDaniel, the national chairwoman of the Republican Party, and we sat there and we waited. And waited for about a half an hour, about 5:30. A couple of SUVs come rolling up. President Trump gets out, comes in the room, says hey to everybody, and pokes his head back out the door. And he looks at us and says, are y'all hungry? Y'all want something to eat? Let's get some hors d'oeuvres in here. Y'all bring some hors d'oeuvres in here. So, all right, we sat there and we started chit-chatting a little bit. Next thing I know, about half a dozen people come in with silver trays carrying shrimp cocktail. We had lamb chops and chicken wings, and then meatballs about the size of baseballs covered with marinara sauce. He says, try the meatballs. They're great. I get them all the time. Try the meatballs. He kept pushing them down the table at us. He says, try the meatballs. Had a great conversation, though, and in the course of that conversation, I just want to pass on to you that he commented on. He was mindful of, number one, everything that you all did, that we did as a party here in South Carolina to turn out more votes for Donald Trump than any other presidential candidate in the history of South Carolina in 2020. And he wanted me to thank all the Republicans of South Carolina for what we did to get it right here in South Carolina. And then he looked at me a minute later and he says, by the way, you got a great governor. He said, he's fantastic. Henry's loyal. He's great. He's smart. He's doing a wonderful job. I said, Mr. President, I know. He said, will you tell him hello next time you see him? So, Governor, President Trump says hello. I give y'all Governor Henry McMaster.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, then. Okay, y'all, thank you. Thank you, Drew. You know, Pam gave almost my whole speech. Did y'all notice something? Peggy got on red shoes, Pam got on red shoes. Peggy got on a red skirt, Pam got on a red skirt. Peggy got on a white blouse, Pam got on a white blouse. Something going on in here. Best lieutenant governor in the United States of America, right there. And without doubt, the finest first lady that's ever existed. I might have told some of y'all this story. If you go back, it was 2016. I was on the way to the National Convention in Cleveland. It was cold in Cleveland. But I was on the way and I called back to Peggy. I said, Peggy, did you in your wildest dream ever see your husband, Henry, going to the National Convention to nominate Donald Trump for president, ever in your wildest dream? She said, I hate to tell you, boy, I never seen you in any of my wildest dreams. I married a girl from Spartanburg. She's been that way her whole life. Ain't nothing I can do about it. Oh, me. I think, what am I, the 15th speaker or something like that? Y'all remember Elizabeth Taylor, the famous actress? Her 7th husband said, well, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know how to make it exciting. All right, I got a few things I want to say to you. You might not have heard this. Like the man said, I got it wrote down right here in English. This is Margaret Thatcher. Y'all remember her? Prime Minister of Great Britain. It's March the 10th, 1991, right about the end of the first Gulf War. She said, and I quote, only one nation really has the power to defend freedom in the world. That is now and in the foreseeable future, the United States of America. She also said, European nations are not and never will be like this. They are the product of their history, while America is the product of philosophy. That's why we are unique. That's why we are an exceptional nation. We didn't bubble up over the centuries with wars and people in and out and kings and queens and traditions being built, some good, some bad, serfdom, all that over those years. They couldn't get away from it. It's like they on a train is going somewhere and they just in there going to the next stop, but not so the United States. We were built on philosophy. When the revolution came along, we had a blank slate. And we had 52 men that went in that convention. And they had seen it all. They'd read about it. They knew about Rome. They knew about Greece. They knew all the history. They'd read the Bible. They could quote it to you. They put it in the Constitution. People say, well, the Constitution doesn't say anything about religion. Well, except in one place right in the end, it says, in the year of our Lord, and then states the date. But it was a blank slate. And that is why we are free today. No other nation in this world has ever been created the way we were. There are other countries in this world that have more resources than we do. They got more people than we do. Don't think they're as smart as we are, but they think they are. But they have just as much or more opportunity through the natural resources, the weather, and everything else, trade routes, ancient and new. But they're not as prosperous as us. And they are not the nation that Margaret Thatcher, who was a great woman and would have been a great American if she lived here. This is a different kind of place. And this state is a different kind of place. And I, as your governor, I get to speak to people from all over the world who are looking to invest hundreds of millions of billions of dollars. And there's some coming right around the corner that you'll be hearing about. And they want to come to this state. They want to come to this country, but they want to come to this state. And you know why? Well, it's the mountains and the oceans. It's the low country. It's the climate. It's all the trees. It's the animals. It's the blue sky. It's the good weather. It's all of those things. But they always say the three main things, the people, the people, the people. That's it. The chairman of BMW said, South Carolina is a handshake state. When somebody gives you their word, they keep it. He said, I'd rather have a man's hand in mine than have 10 contracts signed by anybody. That makes a difference. Mark Clark, great general, World War II, later president of the Citadel, said, there's more patriotism in South Carolina per square inch than any place in the world. Now that patriotism, that loyalty, that taking care of your neighbor, all of those things exist in full flower here in South Carolina. And also, we're the friendliest in the whole place. You stop at the QT or some of or Spinks or one of those places going somewhere, and before you finish paying for your Coca-Cola or whatever you get, the lady at the cash register will call you honey, sweetie, darling, and dear. And that don't just happen anywhere. But it happens here all the time. I got another quote for you. This was written by a man, let me see. It was Professor Alexander Tyler. He lived in Scotland, a very great place, from 1747 through 1813. He was an advocate, which in Scotland is a top-flight attorney. He was a judge, he was a writer, he was a historian, he was a professor of universal history and Greek and Roman antiquities at the University of Edinburgh. By the way, Edinburgh, you know, and he lived on what they call the Royal Mile. Have you heard that lately? That's where the Queen went by a cortege. That's from the palace to the castle. That's the Royal Mile. Well, this man and his daddy lived there practicing law. That's what they did on the Royal Mile. And he said this. This was 200 years ago, more. A democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. It can only exist until the voters discover they can vote themselves excessive gratuities from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates promising the most benefits from the treasury, with the result that a democracy collapses over loose fiscal policy and always is followed by a dictatorship. Well, now we've read words like that from people who know the world over and over and over. But I ask you, where does that put us right now? What is happening in Washington right now? Are they voting out money for the Treasury? Do we have a dependent society? Do we have people that have grown essentially to living in a welfare state and looking for more, and whoever promises the most is going to get the most votes? It's the easy way to get elected. On our side, we see it a little differently. It takes discipline. You got to understand free enterprise. You have to understand a strong defense. You have to understand individual capacity, individual liberty. And that's why we wrote the Constitution up the way we did. And sometimes talking to the children, I asked them, what rights does the Constitution, it's a quick trick question, what rights does the Constitution give you, the U.S. Constitution? And they say, well, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all those. Say, no, children. The Constitution of the United States does not give you a single right. The Constitution of the United States was written and passed by those 13 states to protect your God-given rights against this national government that we're not creating. That's what it happened. And I need to say, nowhere in that Constitution does it say that the President of the United States can tell you that your child has to wear a mask, that they have to close the schools. Nowhere in that Constitution does it say that the President of the United States can tell you you have to get a vaccine, even if it's the best idea in the whole world. The President does not have the authority to do that. Now, the state government can do that. Good, but the state government ain't going to do that. We didn't then. We're not doing it now. We're not going to do it. Not South Carolina, as the lieutenant governor said. We were one of the states, one of the leaders. I had people call up and say, Henry, when you go open back up? When you go make the announcement? Say, I can't do that. Say, why not? Because we didn't close down. We can't announce that. If the Republican states, if the Republican governors, and there are 28 of us, if they had shut down like the other side did, just tight, they closed down manufacturing plants, Ford, Chevrolet, all those. They closed down churches. They had people getting married at wedding ceremonies. Congregations were meeting out in the parking lot, but they weren't more than 6 feet apart, so they were getting arrested. Can you believe that? Well, that's what happens when you elect the wrong people and they have the wrong philosophy. But that's not going to happen here. Crazy is not going to happen here in South Carolina. All right, I'm about to finish up. So my question is, and it's an important one, is where are we? And we look at D.C. And by the way, we've brought lawsuits against all those mandates, and we've won every single case, and we're going to keep on winning. But you know what the Biden administration, they say, and the president said it once himself. Somebody said, sir, this is likely unconstitutional. He said, well, that's all right. By the time it gets all the way through the courts, we'll have been able to impact the people enough. So let's go ahead and do it, even though it is unconstitutional. Ladies and gentlemen, that is dangerous. And I have heard intelligent people say, well, the Constitution is one thing, but this is an emergency. And I say, well, that's what the Constitution is built for, you moron. It's built for emergencies. And it's worked. When we use it, it works. All right. Just a little bit more. Y'all, I'll finish up with this. We have, my approach of my administration is that there are 3 pillars of our strength and success. One is education, one is environment, and one is economic growth. Everything roughly can put into those three categories. Pam mentioned some of them. But they're not separate. It's not one you got to hurt one to do the other. They're also intricately related. They're all tied up. They together. So if you short one, you're hurting the rest. We got to have all four of them. That's why we're asking for conservation easements on land. We bought a piece of property with your money. It's your money, $4.9 million. It's called St. Philip's Island. I think it's 4,000 acres, just above Hilton Head. Ted Turner had a house on it, a real nice house. I ain't been there yet, but it's down there. We bought that. It was for sale. We got a good deal on it, but that'll be preserved forever for all of you, for your children, for their children, their children. We have to be sure we don't spoil this land. We're going to do that, and at the same time, we're going to educate these young people. We got the best technical college system in the entire world. We got great universities that collaborate, communicate, and cooperate. We got people coming that want to work, and again, they come in because of you, because of the history, the tradition, and the people of South Carolina. And it's everything we've done is just plain common sense. Common sense, that's all it takes. Common sense, you base it on the Bible, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution of South Carolina, and the United States, and you cannot go wrong. So, common sense is a great, important phrase. Thomas Paine, you remember, wrote his booklet that changed the world. They were reading it all over Europe. History is a great thing, and the history of South Carolina is just wonderful. So it's common sense, and just a little story to help you remember how important that is. This is the one some of you may have heard. It is about the city slicker from the big city coming down to a little place outside of town. Wouldn't have been to a big place like this, but he's in a little place. And he'd never been there. It was a dark night. The wind was blowing, raining, dark, foggy, couldn't see a thing, riding along with the windshield wipers, trying to go to the New Year's Eve party that his friends were having way out in the country. Well, he's going along, he didn't know where he's going. All of a sudden, boom, had a wreck. He'd gone into an intersection, hit a pickup truck. He got out and looked. Farmer got out of the pickup truck. City slicker says, well, this wasn't my fault. No, you ain't suing me. This wasn't my fault. Farmer says, well, I'm not saying it is. He said, well, I'm not hurt. You're not hurt, are you? You're not hurt, are you? He says, no, I'm not hurt. He said, well, okay. Well, since we here and it's New Year's Eve, I got a bottle of liquor in the trunk. I think maybe we ought to celebrate our good health. The farmer said, sure, we'll do that. So the man took out the big bottle, gulp it down, and said, man, that's good. Handed the farmer, said, here, it's your turn. He said, I think I'll wait till after the police get here. Common sense. Works every time. South Carolina is the greatest place in the whole world to live, work, and raise a family. Let's keep it that way. Thank you.
If you could be seated, we have one more quick agenda item. Chairman McKissick, if you could come join me. Ladies, if you could come up. We have 3 awards that we'd like to give. And where is Lena or Cheryl with the awards? Mr. Chairman, the first one.
Got it? All right, technical difficulties. So we got a lot of, wonderful people who've served our party for a long time. And as I pointed out earlier, number one, you can't have a party without candidates, without people who are willing to run, people who are willing to do the work. And, occasionally, we get so wrapped up in what we're doing, we forget to stop and say thank you to those who do the work. So it is my privilege and my honor. She's not with us here tonight to receive this, but in absentia, we're giving a Chairman's Award from the South Carolina Republican Party to Miss Rita Allison. Y'all give Rita a round of applause for all she's done for our party. She's been a great worker for our party and for our conservative values. We appreciate her and look forward to seeing her again soon.
There, as the chairman of the party, there's one group that I really don't have to call much or meddle in. They seem to make wise decision. Every once in a while, they have a little bit of division to see what the wisest decision is. But I've always appreciated a few of our very wise councilmen. So we have two. The first one is to Councilman Lynn Ballard. We want to thank you. This was his life. He dedicated so many hours. So we want to present him from the 4th District Republican Club, the Service Award to Councilman Lynn Ballard. I do have to tell one funny story that I thought of our last recipient. I think I had just recently been elected first vice chairman of the party, and I was sitting at a Christmas party, and if you haven't seen, we have a display remembering Jerry Warren over there, and an elected official's wife just loved to tell it how it was, and I respected it. She just looked over at me, she goes, "You know Jerry Warren doesn't like you." And I said, "No, but yeah," and I worked really hard for a number of years, and before her passing, Jerry, I'm gonna get a little teared up, became very, very close. But I remember that, and there was another thought that I'm frugal with money, and that's what we want our elected officials to be. And a person that showed that vote after vote was Councilman Willis Meadows. So Councilman, please accept this service award. With that, we will go ahead and dismiss, but please pay attention to our victory program with Tabitha. Sign up. There's a lot of work to do there, going door knocking. Other counties are running circles around Greenville to the tune of thousands of calls, thousands of votes. We need you to work. So thank you all for coming, and have a good evening.